Today on Inspired Money. It's one thing to love theater and to want to pursue a path in acting or different productions in some capacity. I would imagine that you didn't know to what extent it requires you to be an entrepreneur and a business person and this creative thinker to test like different marketing ploys and ideas.
Yeah, for sure. It was exactly that. It's about being creative. You know, people say, I want to be creative. Well, you can be creative in whatever profession you want. It's just about finding how to be creative. It's about doing what you can do. And marketing is a great place to exercise one's creativity, for sure.
This is episode 40 with Tony Award-winning producer, blogger, and writer, Ken Davenport. Welcome to Inspired Money. My name is Andy Wong, a managing partner at RUNNYMEDE Capital Management. Each week, we bring you an interesting person to help you get inspired, shift your perspectives on money, and achieve incredible things. From making it to giving it away, Inspired Money means making a difference, creating something bigger than oneself, and maybe, just maybe, making the world a better place. Thank you for joining me. Hey, Inspired Moneymaker. I hope you're feeling like an all-star today. Our guest is Tony Award-winning producer and entrepreneur Ken Davenport, the man behind some of Broadway's most iconic productions, including Spring Awakening, Kinky Boots, and Once on This Island, whose soundtrack is second only behind Hamilton. He's a co-founder of TEDx Broadway, and his blog, theproducersperspective.com, has been featured in Vanity Fair, New York Magazine, and The Gothamist. I'm really excited about today's show because we cover a variety of interesting topics. In this episode, you'll learn why and how to invest in theatrical productions, some thoughts on marketing, and that's because Ken's unique marketing style has garnered him international attention, including front-page articles in the New York Times, features on MSNBC, and his favorite, a mention in Jay Leno's monologue on The Tonight Show. We also cover a whole bunch of tips, from how to better ask for money, how to be better at networking, and a whole lot more. Now let's get inspired with Ken Davenport. Ken, welcome to Inspired Money. It's so great to have you on the show.
It's a real pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
My earliest childhood memory of money was my father taking me to our local bank to open a bank account. And he gave me $100 bill, and I will never forget the look of that crisp green bill. Might as well have been $1 million bill. But that's where he started my relationship with money, by opening a bank account for me.
Nice. And then you had your passbook.
That's right. I even got free silverware, too. I don't know what an 8-year-old would do with a set of cutlery, but I got one.
Oh, I got to look into that. I never got any cutlery. My mom took me to the wrong bank, apparently. Now, is theater something that you were really passionate about as a kid? Is it something that you knew that you were going to do when you grew up, or did it develop over time?
It developed over time, but I was introduced to it when I was 5, and then I did it until I was 12, got too cool for it, and then got rebit by the bug my senior year of high school when I saw Les Mis.
A recurring theme on Inspired Money is that so many of our guests cite the value of working with a mentor or coach. In his book, How to Succeed in the Arts or in Anything, Ken tells the story of how he wrote a letter to legendary director Hal Prince.
You know, I was working on the staff of some Broadway musicals at the time, dreaming about being a producer one day. And Hal Prince had written a very famous article back then, how he said there were no more creative producers. Well, I wrote him a letter and said, this is what I want to be. I want to be exactly that. Can I talk to you about it? And he said, sure. So I went to his office and I pitched him everything under the sun that I wanted to turn into a musical or a play. I'll produce this, I'll do this. And he stopped me about mid-pitch and he said, Ken, do you remember the first show I ever produced? And I couldn't remember at the time. And he said it was The Pajama Game. Don't come out of the box trying to produce West Side Story. Be happy if you get The Pajama Game. Ran a couple years, made people some money. It was a fine show. He basically was telling me, he said, just do something, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Just start, get going. I think Hal, who's, got one of the most successful people we've ever had in the industry, he's got like 20 Tony Awards. West Side Story is probably more of the types of show or Phantom that he wants on his tombstone. Maybe not The Pajama Game, but without The Pajama Game, he never would have had those other shows. So I went home that day and started work on my very first show, a very small show called The Awesome 80s Prom. Micro show, if you will, $120,000 capitalization, but it ran for 10 years on Broadway. I learned so much, got me going, and without it, I wouldn't be producing multi-million-dollar Broadway musicals today.
This is great advice about starting something. Start small.
I think how, for a lot of people starting off in any industry, but frankly, especially for young, cocky men who come out of college thinking they can change the world and they're ready to do it right then, I think for me, I wanted to produce West Side Story right away or Les Mis right away, and I wasn't prepared to do that. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the contacts. I didn't have any of it. But Hal basically said, check your ego. You're not going to be able to do these big things right away. So start on something you can do tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to spend 10 years spinning your wheels trying to do something that's much larger than you. It's like trying to run a marathon without having run a mile first. So basically, Hal said, go, run a mile, run 2 miles. You'll build up some strength, and you'll be ready to go the distance when the time has come, when you're ready for it.
And I imagine starting with a production that's capitalized at $120,000, that's doable.
Yeah, and more importantly even than that was the fact that the show I created it myself. It was just me. It didn't require me getting the rights to anything. It didn't require me having a relationship with another director. I just created the whole thing myself. I controlled it. I was able to execute it and action it at my speed and get it up on its feet and get it out there into the world. So it was just easier to get done.
And to run for 10 years is really incredible.
Yeah, we're very proud of that one. Very happy, and it's been actually all over the world and being done all over this country as well. High schools do it now. It's crazy.
That is not a bad first production. Mm-hmm. That's not everyone's experience, right?
No, it's not. But in actuality, and this is the other big lesson, it wasn't my first experience either. I had tried to put together a review on television theme songs years before, never got off the ground. I had a performance art piece that I thought was going to be the next Blue Man Group. It happened just around September 11th, so it never got off the ground. So yeah, Awesome 80s Prom was my first show to open, get reviewed by the New York Times, and go on to have that kind of big success. And I do refer to it as my first show, but as with most business leaders, entrepreneurs, et cetera, their very first business that they get attention for usually isn't their very first attempt at a business. Everyone usually goes through some kind of failure or false start before something really takes off.
Right. It's usually a 10-year overnight success story.
That's right. Very famously, Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent, his sister, who accepted his Tony Award posthumously on his behalf, said it took Jonathan 10 years to become an overnight sensation. Yeah.
I'm impressed with how all these lessons that you go through as a producer, I mean, really, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, a Broadway producer is actually a serial startup guy. Like every show that I produce is a new company. It's a new product. It's a new storefront. It's a new management team, perhaps. It's new marketing tactics. The stuff I'm doing on my latest show, which is called Getting the Band Back Together, which debuts on Broadway in July, we just produced a very funny, irreverent video today, based somewhat on the Dollar Shave Club video that got a lot of attention a little bit ago. And if you go to our YouTube channel, Getting the Band Back Together, you'll see, well, that marketing initiative is much different than the marketing initiatives that I would do for Once on This Island, which is a Broadway show I'm producing that's up for the Tony Award for Best Revival this year. So everything is different. And I have to access that part of my brain for every show that I do, which is why, I'm an entrepreneur. Every show is a different company.
Yeah, you definitely have a willingness to try a lot of new things, embrace new technology. I noticed that you have a blog, you've done email marketing, you just talked about for your getting the band back together, you're trying to do a Dollar Shave Club-like commercial. It's very forward-thinking.
Well, thanks. I try to do things that other people aren't doing. My mission statement at my company, the funny thing is I used to have this very long, like fake MBA style mission statement. We're going to be the most cutting edge, Davenport Theatrical is the most cutting edge, technologically advanced development and product, blah, 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 blah. And we were on a company retreat and we were playing Davenport Theatrical trivia. And I asked people, when's my birthday? What was our first show? What's our mission statement? And no one could remember it. And the irony is that it was literally printed on all of their computers. So they were staring at it every day and they couldn't remember the mission. So I went back to my cabin. We were on a cruise at the time and spent a couple hours coming up with what I believe is a much better mission statement, which is very simple. We do shit that other people don't. That's it. Everything that I do is to try to do things that my competitors or other shows or other producers aren't doing. Because by nature, then I will stand out. And if I stand out from the market, people will pay attention to it, buy tickets, read, etc., and we'll prosper.
Back in 2006, Ken became the first producer to send audience members a follow-up email after they attended a show, a method now widely used across the industry.
Yeah, of course. It's, everything, but Broadway especially is a word-of-mouth business, so I want to spread word of mouth the fastest I can. And, of course, the internet and its varying forms of media from social to email marketing is the best way for me to do that.
What's your process for taking some of the new ideas and what some may see as crazy ideas and implementing them to see what works and what doesn't work?
When people say one of my ideas is crazy, that's exactly when I know I need to do it. Because immediately they're giving me feedback that, for me, crazy equals different. So when someone says, that's nuts, that's crazy, I know if other people see it, it's going to get attention, right? So that's when I go, yes, we must do that. We can't take a safe road. In fact, it happened at a meeting today. We were talking about an idea and someone watered it down. And I was like, that is not good enough. That will get a watered down response. The only way to do something is to really just go for it. So when I hear something crazy, that's when I execute. And frankly, I just try to put my head down and just go. Just go and do it and see what happens. I'm in the entertainment business, right? I'm not a brain surgeon. No one's going to live or die by some crazy idea that I do, right? I'm not operating on someone's brain and, hey, this is crazy. Let me try, attaching this artery to this vein. No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm selling theater tickets. I'm trying to make people happy. So my father's a doctor. I specifically decided not to do that so I could have a little bit more fun. And when you're having fun with your marketing, your audiences have fun too.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any examples of ideas that was the reaction that you got, that people said, that is too crazy?
Oh, sure. When I've, have a dozen of them. One of my most famous initiatives was for a show that was called My First Time. It's about exactly what you think it's about. It's about people's first sexual experiences. And for my very first performance, I let virgins get in for free. But the big question is, how are you going to tell if people are virgins or not? So what I did was hire a human lie detector, a mentalist, someone who had a PhD in nonverbal communication, handwriting analysis, to determine if people were lying when they said if they were a virgin or not at the box office. That promotion got picked up by global news networks. CNN was on the homepage of CNN. I did interviews with the BBC, and Jay Leno did a joke about it in his monologue. So yeah, but when I first said I'm going to do this, people were like, "Are you nuts?" But yeah, those are the ideas that usually catch fire.
Ken, that one is out there. I've got to hand it to you. but I guess that's how you make a big splash. Now, on your blog, you write a lot about all kinds of different things, but I noticed that there is a focus on investing in theater. Can you educate us a little bit on some of the misconceptions about theater investing?
I think number one, I one of the other really crazy ideas I did, and may have been the one that people call me the most crazy about, was I crowdfunded a Broadway musical in 2011, Godspell, the first ever crowdfunded Broadway musical, and took investments for as little as $1,000 at a time. And one of the reasons I did it that way is I had a theory. I had a theory that people all over the world would want to get involved in Broadway investing. They just didn't, one, know how to do it, or two, they just wanted to dip their toes to see if they liked it first before they jumped in. So I did this crowdfunding initiative, which allowed me to promote it, basically. We used Regulation A, which allowed me to advertise or solicit and take unaccredited investors. And that theory of mine proved absolutely true. So one of the myths out there is, or one of the things I like to dispel is that, it takes a lot of people when I run, travel all over, say, oh, I'd love to think about investing in Broadway shows, but they think the opening threshold is like $100,000, $250,000. They don't think that the average person can get in. Now, the crowdfunding idea was a very rare occurrence, and that hasn't happened again. But I can tell you that the average investment in a Broadway show is not $250,000, $100,000, even $50,000. It's more like $25,000, and $12,500, $10,000 investments are not uncommon. So it's people can get in for less than they think, number one. Two, it's without a doubt a very risky investment, but it's not unlike other high-risk vehicles, private equity, venture capital, any kind of startups. Our success rates, 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 shows recoup their money. My job is to try to beat that market, of course, but the average is about 1 out of 5. Startups in this country, I think, are about 1 out of 10. So one of the myths that it's impossible to actually make money, and that's actually not true. I often say that investing in the theater is like drilling for oil. You do have to drill a lot of holes, but when you hit oil, it's usually a gusher.
So why should people consider investing in theater? What should be the motivations?
A lot of people invest in the theater for a number of reasons. Number one, the most common characteristic, I did a survey about why people invest in the theater on my blog, and the number one reason is they love the theater. Right? It's definitely passion investing. It's arts investing. It's like buying art, right? It's the same type of thing. You hope it escalates, but if it doesn't escalate, you have a beautiful painting in your wall that you're very proud of, right? It's very similar. There are people out there all over that love the theater. Maybe they did it as a kid and they want to be connected to it now. Or one of the most common new classes of investors that I'm coming into are very, very smart parents who have kids who are pursuing careers in the theater. And they invest in the theater so that they can understand the business or that they can attend opening night parties and bring their kid and network for them. So this is a growing group of investors in the theater. But mostly it's people that love the theater, they want to support the arts, and they want to try and make some money. We've had a couple of big fat hits in the last several years, and Broadway is going through a big boom time right now. And when you make money, you can make a lot of it. So, but people come at it for a lot of reasons. No question, it's risky. It's mostly for people that do just love the theater. They have to be prepared to lose it all. There's no question.
Now, it is very much a growth industry because I watched a little clip of your TEDx Broadway, and in it, you talked about gross receipts back in 1992 on Broadway. I think it was $293 million, and in 2016, that's up to $1.4 billion. Audience numbers are up. You referenced that in New York City, crime is down and tourism is up. We on the East Coast know that Times Square has undergone massive changes.
For sure. In that TEDx Broadway speech of mine, I showed a video clip of what Times Square looked like in the early 90s. And boy, oh boy, I can see Times Square from my window right now. And it looks a lot different thanks to Disney.
Yes, back in the early 90s and late 80s, you really didn't want to be walking around Times Square.
No, definitely not.
And now you've got the bright lights and a lot of good things going on. So Ken, how does one make an investment and how is it structured?
Investing in the theater is, you purchase a unit or a share in an LLC usually. It's that type of investment. You're a limited member of an LLC. And it's pretty much standard if you've ever invested in that type of vehicle or private company, or it's pretty much the same. It's nothing real magical about it.
I mean, this is a dangerous question, but if 1 in 5 productions recoup their returns, what kind of return does an investor hope to gain?
Well, that's a great question. And look, it runs the gamut. Certainly big, fat hits, the Wickeds and the Hamiltons and the Rents. It is not uncommon that the big juggernauts can pay 10% profit or more per month on their money.
Coming up, we talk fundraising. But first, a tip for theater production investors.
Per company. I mean, that's the other thing that, when you invest in the theater, you often or should get the right. I advise all my clients that come to me for advice on this subject to secure the right to invest in the additional companies after the fact, because investing in a Broadway show is like investing in the mother company or the first in a franchise. Right. So when you're in one company, you get then the right to invest in the national tour or London or the others. And if it was successful on Broadway, usually it means it's going to be successful in other places as well. And then what people don't realize is when you invest in a new play or a musical on Broadway and it's successful, and then it goes on to whether it's a movie, you get a piece of that, or even when it's done in regional theaters, community theaters, or high schools around the country. Some of that money will trickle back to the original investors in a show.
Interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. The show notes for this episode can be found at inspiredmoney.fm/040. In addition to our guests' bios and links, we're slowly adding full transcripts for each episode. Go to our Facebook group at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook and let us know if you think transcripts are helpful. It's time for the RUNNYMEDE tip of the week. And this one comes from last week's blog. Have you subscribed yet? This month, Amazon raised prices on its Prime membership by $20 from $99 per year to $119. My brother Chris wrote an article entitled, How to Get Your Amazon Prime Membership for Free. The free should actually be in quotes, and the way you pay for your $119 annual membership is by using the Amazon Prime Reward Visa Signature Card. It has no annual fee. Assuming that you pay your monthly bill in full, please don't carry a balance or you'll lose out paying interest. Here are the benefits of using the Amazon Visa Card for your purchases. The card pays 5% cash back at Amazon.com and Whole Foods purchases, 2% back at restaurants, gas stations, and drugstores, and 1% back on all other purchases. Amazon currently has a sign-up bonus of $70 for new card members and comes instantly upon approval. In the first year, if you spend $980 at Amazon and Whole Foods, your cash back will cover the cost of your entire Prime subscription. Without the sign-on bonus, in subsequent years, or if you have the card already, you'll have to spend about $2,380 at Amazon and Whole Foods. If you want to check how much you spent at Amazon.com last year and see additional perks and features of Prime membership, read the full article at blog.runnymede.com. That's blog.runnymede.com. That's the Runnymede Money Tip of the Week. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe now wherever you listen so you won't miss next week's show. Join the Inspired Money community on Facebook at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook for articles and a peek behind the scenes. And if you could please share a favorite episode with a friend, I'd really appreciate it. Inspired Money is brought to you by Runnymede Capital Management. We help you to plan, invest, and worry less. Learn more about us and educate yourself for free by subscribing to our blog at inspiredmoney.fm. You're listening to Inspired Money. I'm Andy Wong. You've had a lot of success in your career selecting the right projects. What are some of the things that you look for so that you can mitigate that risk?
Well, for me, it's I analyze it like a stock picker or an investment banker would analyze a company, right? I look at who made that product, the writers of that product. Are they new? Have they written for the theater before? What's their success rate? Do audiences, enjoy consuming their material, right? So that's something I look at. Who's directing it? Is it me producing it? Is it someone else producing it? What theater is in? Generally, I adopt this old journalism tactic: who, what, when, where, why, and how much. I go through that due diligence process, and then I rank all the who, what, whys. And there's no right or wrong. There's no black or white, yes or no. The answers to those just help me determine how risky something is. A new play with no stars, by an unknown playwright and an unknown director, yeah, that's going to have a higher risk than a brand new musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda starring Hugh Jackman,
Yep.
Right? So again, there is no yes or no, right or wrong, red light, green light. There is just, where does this opportunity fall on the riskometer, if you will. Next Tuesday, the 22nd of May at 7 o'clock, I'm teaching a Broadway Investing 101 webinar. And if you go to theproducersperspective.com, you can register for it, or just actually BroadwayInvesting101.com. You can register because there has been such an influx of new investors because of the boom that we're in. I'm doing a webinar to explain to people the process and the things you need to be careful of. And because, look, it's super high risk. There's no question about it. I tell all my people, when you're investing in a show, you have to write that check like you're not going to see it again. Then we try to, employ strategies, et cetera, to improve results, to mitigate risk. And there are a lot of things that you should be careful of.
Now, it's not like the stock market where you can go open up your online trading account. Where do investors, or how do investors find the investing opportunities? Does it boil down to like the old school network? It's who you know?
Yeah, without a doubt. Every when you're raising money, it's all about your own network. I do a lot of consulting with people that are looking to raise money now, whether it's small companies looking to have Kickstarter, or whether it's large institutions or individual investor or producers looking to raise millions. And it's all based on your own network. You got to start like selling chocolate bars when you were a Cub Scout. You start with the people closest to you and you spread it out from there, like a marker on a piece of paper. You hope it bleeds. And so I tell people that are looking to raise money, it's about your own network. So if you don't have one, grow one. And the most important time to be raising money is when you're not raising money. So when I don't have money that I'm raising, I'm still developing as many relationships as I can, meeting as many people as I can, because then when it's time to ask, the ask is much easier. It's much harder to meet someone and ask for money the next day.
Right. Do you have any tips for networking, since that is so integral to what you do?
Yeah, here's a simple tip that everyone can do today and challenge yourself to do it. You're going to leave the house today or tomorrow, and all that I want you to do is say hello to 3 people that you encounter on the street, in the subway, at the diner, at the whatever. Just hello. That's it. I'm a big believer in baby steps, especially for those people who are a little more introverted, like me, is just start with a hello. That's it. Tomorrow, hello to 3 people. Catch eye contact. Hello. That's it. And the next, you'll start to get a little bit just more comfortable with interacting and cold approaches, which really is what that is. I talk to a lot of people. I go to the theater. I told you before that the people that invest in the theater are people that love the theater. So when I go to a show, guess what I do? I turn to the people to the left and the right of me and I say, hey, hi, how are you? What brought you to the show tonight? I do what I call is this entrepreneurial phrase that I've developed, which is called serving the tennis ball. I constantly just start the game. And in networking, saying hi or how are you is serving the tennis ball and starting the networking game. And hopefully someone hits it back to you.
In your book, you talk about how to stretch your comfort zone just a little bit each day. In terms of networking, since you mentioned that you are an introvert, is that something that you had to do personally?
Oh yeah, it's hard. Again, I'm an introverted person by nature. I'm the guy that likes to sit at home and solve any problem in front of a computer. So it's not as easy for me to start talking to people. But it's an essential part of every industry. So I've just had to get better at it. And I'm not great at it. I'm not the best, but I try to get better at it every single day.
But you think baby steps?
Exactly. Everything is a small step. Just try to improve. James Altucher, who's a blogger out there, he just says try to improve at everything 1% every day. Get a little bit better every single day. In a year's time, you'll be pretty damn good.
That's right. I think he had the thing where it was like he was going to Starbucks and asking if he could get a discount.
Exactly right.
So forcing yourself to do something a little bit uncomfortable and out of the ordinary, because it's like a muscle, like anything else that can be developed.
Oh yeah.
And you improve over time.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that for those people out there raising money for anything, whether it's a real estate fund or whatever it is, one of the most important things to do and one of the hardest things to do is when you are asking money for someone is you add a zero to whatever amount you want. So if you think you're going to ask for 100,000, you stop and ask for $1 million. It's very uncomfortable, but you have to get used to asking for more money. And there's two reasons why. Number one, someone just might give it to you. You never know. You never know. And it's happened to me. And two, the 100,000 seems much cheaper after you've asked for $1 million. So the person is much more likely to do that when you've asked for something that's much, much higher.
When was the first time that you tried that?
Oh, I actually first tried that and learned that technique when I was a Cutco salesperson in my 20s, because they used to force us to ask for a sale for the giant Homemaker Plus 8, all the steak knives and the butcher block and the whole bit, which was $611 in 1991. It's a massive amount of money. But they didn't let us turn the page in our sales book until we asked for that. Then we slowly worked down from there until we got to a steak knife. The goal was never leave the appointment without getting someone to buy at least a steak knife.
So Cutco is your training ground. I'm sure you learned a lot about marketing and salesmanship. So in your career, given the nature of the business, what have you learned about adversity and failure?
Well, listen, what I've learned, no one likes to fail. There's no question about it, but you have to accept that it's part of the process. You just have to keep going. No one's going to be perfect as much as we want to be perfect. Can't be. In fact, you get to a hit, you get to success by going through failure. I mean, you learn. You don't learn how to walk by just standing up and walking. You know, I have a 6-week-old, so I'm thinking about this a lot lately. And when my daughter starts to try to figure out how to walk, she's going to fall on her butt like crazy. And the same is true in business. You're going to fall. You got to be prepared for it. You got to tackle business just like a 1-year-old try to tackle walking. I don't care. I'm going to fall on my butt. My diaper's there. It'll protect me a little bit. So just keep on getting up and go because you really, really want it that bad. If you have the tenacity of a child, you will get it. You will get it. You just got to keep going.
Yeah, congratulations, by the way, on the birth of your daughter. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
Do you think you handle adversity different today than you would have 10 years ago?
Yeah, the interesting thing is it's sometimes harder to get through failure after you've had some success because it feels like there's more to lose. You have more of a reputation. You have more eyes on you. You know, when I was a kid just starting out, no one cared. No one was watching me, right? I just did it. Now it's a little bit different. I'm a little more public. I'm a little more out there. So any failures that I have are going to be a little more obvious to the world. So it's a little bit harder, but you just got to say, hey, I don't really care. I'm just going to go down and do what I do. If this works, great. If it doesn't, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else until I keep going, and love the process of it. Just have to keep going. Even in those down moments, you just have to say, I love, it's all about loving what you do as well. And I'm very fortunate to love what I do. So I couldn't see myself doing anything else. So just go for it.
So where do you see Broadway and live theater? Like, where is it today, and what do you see in the future?
Broadway's, again, going through this incredible boom time right now, and we're going to continue to grow. We have Frozen opening this year. We have Harry Potter opening this year. We're going to get a lot more attention even than we've had over the last several. So the great news is that Broadway is going to boom. It's a great time to get involved in it, I believe. I think you're going to see a lot more big companies and big brands get involved in Broadway because they're realizing there's a lot of money to be made here. And we're going to see Broadway become a little more Hollywood, and that will be a good thing, and also that will be challenging to make sure we keep our artistic integrity.
What role will China play as a big theater market?
China's the next big market, and we're just starting to get some action there. You're going to see a lot happening in that market over the next 5 years for Broadway. You're going to see a lot of the big brands go there first, the Les Mises and the Phantoms and a lot of these shows, and some have already played there. But eventually they will trickle down to other brands as well.
Is it still super early?
It's pretty early, yeah. Pretty early.
I like to ask all of our guests, how do you define success?
It's funny you say that, because that is actually the thesis for getting the band back together. I'm a big believer that every show out there has to have what this old drama book used to say, a premise, but I've changed that to a thesis. And it's the playwright's job to prove that thesis. And the thesis for getting the band back together is true success is doing what you love with the people who you love and who love you. That's it, right then and there. And I'm blessed that I get to do what I love with some really, really great people. And if you want to see a great version of that, what success really is, come see Getting the Band Back Together this summer on Broadway. You'll have a blast, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
Now, the premise is a investment banker who I think loses his job.
Yeah, the story is it's about a 40-year-old investment banker who loses his job, has to move back in with his mom in New Jersey, runs into his best friend who he hasn't seen in 20 years, who says, "Dude, you're back in town. You know what we should do? We should get the band back together."
Sounds fun, especially for me, since I am a 40-something and my avocation is playing guitar. So
there you go.
I think I'll be sitting there in the audience. I'll be right there.
You're going to love it. Guaranteed.
Do you have any inspired money tip that you can share that's had a positive impact on your life?
Well, listen, my tip is, I'll give you my latest tip, which is, I'm a big believer I have a financial advisor that handles most of my stuff, but I also have a fun account like most people. It's where I would put some money in a Broadway show, that kind of thing. You're a certain net worth. You try to throw some stuff around, right? Looking for a big one. But I follow the Peter Lynch philosophy. I consider myself an early adopter, and things that I find myself using and passionate about and telling other people about, if I find myself talking about a product or something at a party, I will stop myself, jot a little note, and say, "You're spreading word of mouth. That means this. You're passionate about this. That means," and because I'm an early adopter, there are probably other people passionate about this, and there will be even more. I usually go home and research a company based on whatever I'm talking about and buy the stock in that company. And that philosophy ends up doing pretty well. Invest in what you use every day.
Yeah, invest in what you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you, Ken. Thanks for sharing some of the insight into theater investing and Broadway and what's going on globally. Where can the Inspired Money listener find out more about you and what you're doing?
The best way to do that is to just go to my blog, theproducersperspective.com. Theproducersperspective.com. I've got a blog there and about all sorts of stuff. And again, we are teaching a Broadway investing webinar on Tuesday, May 22nd. If you just go to broadwayinvesting101.com, you can sign up absolutely free, and I'll fill you in on all the juicy details.
Sounds awesome. Thanks so much, Ken. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.
What was your favorite Inspired Money moment? I hope you enjoyed getting a flavor for what investing in a theater production is like. Beyond that, I like the lessons of starting on a small project as a stepping stone that leads to bigger ones. As we've seen in past Inspired Money episodes, there's value in setting small, achievable goals that can lead to the big, audacious ones. And finally, flex your networking muscle. Take baby steps to improve just a little bit each day. If you had a different favorite Inspired Money moment from mine, visit inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook and let us know in our Facebook group. Get articles and a peek behind the scenes. Please join the conversation there. And oh yeah, I recently got Inspired Money stickers, stuck one on my laptop, and it looks sharp. Post in the Facebook group or shoot me an email if you'd like a free sticker. I'm happy to put one in the mail. All the music on today's show is by Jim Kimo West. Aloha, Kimo. Thanks for tuning in. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you. See you next time.